to go? Are my speakers good to go? All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, public school parents, believers in public education and equity, and a voice in the decisions that govern your children and their education. Here we are again, gathered at Senator Cullerton's office. He is my senator. I am a constituent of his. I'm also a husband and a father, small business owner, homeowner, and democratically elected member of the local school council at John C. Coonley Elementary, my neighborhood public school. I'm dismayed that we are here again. We have been advocating and fighting and asking for a seat at the table for years and years and years. In a nutshell, referendum after a referendum across Chicago, nearly 90% of Chicagoans say they would like some form of an elected school board. The latest vote, overwhelming majorities in the House and Senate. At the end of the day, in total, 158 yeas, 11 nays. As far as I know, that is a mandate for an elected school board. A mandate. Yes. However, Senator Cullerton and Speaker Madigan, with 80 plus collective years between them in Springfield, 80 plus years.
Representing who?
That's a good question.
Can't count on Cullerton.
They are unable to take this bill that has been overwhelmingly voted for and move it to the governor's desk. Yeah. Parlor tricks, inside baseball, smoke and mirrors. That's what's going on. It's a clear mandate, but they've chose to side with their political allies and their special interests over the voices of you and me and every other Chicagoan, every other taxpayer, and every other public school parent in the city of Chicago.
That's right. That's right.
So we are here demanding a meeting with my senator and the president of the Senate in Illinois. We want to know why this bill is not moving forward.
Yes, that's right.
Backing me up here is another public school parent from another school in his district, Sarah Ma from Bell.
All right. Welcome. Good job.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Ma, M.A., that's it. And I am a Bell school parent. It's also a neighborhood school right down the street. I am also a small business owner, and I am a homeowner in the neighborhood, and I send my kids to the public school. And I feel like I woke up this morning and I said, wow, deja vu. Here we are again, asking for the same very simple elected school board. I'm elected on this very small local level. We go through the trouble of having an election and having time to speak with our constituents, and we have to be elected. So why can't we elect a school board for our city and for our kids? I just want to say one more thing, is that why do we have a school board that works outside of democracy and represents the agenda of one person?
That's right.
We want checks and balances. We want transparency. We want representation. And we want a state senator that follows the wishes of our constituents. That's easy. This shouldn't be a deal breaker. Senator Cullerton, this is easy for you at the end of your career. So let's see it happen. Thank
you. Elected school board.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
shut it down.
If we don't get it,
shut it down.
If we don't get it,
shut it down.
Say if we don't get it,
shut it down.
Right.
Yes, indeed. I want to bring out another speaker who also happens to be a Chicago public school parent. Which is what you will not find on the present Board of Education. By and large, over the history of that board, they have chosen elite private schools for their children. I don't fault them. If I had the money, perhaps I would, but I doubt it. I happen to believe in my public schools.
That's right.
All right. But public school parents deserve a voice. They deserve a say on the policies that govern their children. Here she is from Vaughan, Catherine Henchek.
Hang on, because I'm also here for Parents for Teachers, but it's a little too cold. It's a little too cold for doing that too much. Hi, my name's Catherine Henchek. That's CatherineHenchek, and I'm a member of Parents for Teachers and parents of the students of Jackie Vaughan. And we are here to demand that Senator Cullerton does what it takes to get the elected representative school board bill on the governor's desk. As you just heard, more than 90% of Chicagoans have voted for an elected school board in 2 separate referenda. The Senate and the House have both passed bills with veto-proof majorities, and we don't have a bill in front of the governor.
Can you say that again? Veto-proof
majorities. So why don't we have a bill in front of the governor? We need to reconcile the differences and get that bill in front of the governor when they return in January. This bill is more urgent than ever. We need an elected school board because we cannot trust the board we have now.
That's right.
You've all heard WBEZ's reports. They spent $14 million on creating a secret manual to cut special ed, and as a parent of a special ed child, I'm disgusted. My child's been in special ed at CPS for 13 years. He's had a lot of services, and he needs them, and so do all the other children out there.
That's right.
This money should have been spent on our schools, and I'm disgusted that CPS is trying to take services away from our children, and I'm disgusted it was done in secret. Because democracy isn't about secrecy, it's about transparency and accountability. The mayor's appointed school board is not accountable to the people of Chicago. We can see they're doing a terrible job, and what can we do? Nothing. We can't vote them out. Democracy is not about appointing your cronies to plum positions and helping your friends stay in power. It's about serving the people who elected you and being accountable to them.
Yeah, that's right.
Senator Cullerton, I'm sure you're not in there and listening, but I want to tell you, as President of the Senate, you have a responsibility to work for all the people of Chicago. We need an elected representative school board. We need it now. We're calling on you to get a bill in front of the governor when you return in January. Our children can't wait any longer. Thank you.
Well said. Got your glove right here.
Elected
School board.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Elected school
When
board.
do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Elected school
When
board.
do we want it?
Now.
You know, it troubles me that we keep having to come out here and demand to have a meeting with our senator. Last I checked, we pay his salary, we pay rent on this office, and we pay for his staff. Yet he chooses to work downtown out of a private law office. We have no access to him. He holds no regular constituent meetings. He holds no town halls. So we're forced to take time away from our jobs and our small businesses and our families and march on this sidewalk to demand a simple meeting with our senator, to stand with him to move a bill forward that has overwhelming majorities. This is easy work. This is work you would think he would want to be a part of. You think he'd like to say to the governor, everybody in my district, 9% of the people across Chicago, and most Republicans, Democrats want this, let's do this together. But instead, he is not here. We never hear from him, and we're forced to come down here and protest just to get a meeting for an elected representative school board. And my next speaker, this man has been at the tip of the spear for this fight for so very long. From Journey for Justice, the one and only Mr. G2.
All right. My name is G2 Brown, J-I-T-U, last name Brown. Proud member of the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization and National Director of the Journey for Justice Alliance, a grassroots network of community-based organizations in 25 cities around the country, many impacted by this same issue. In 2004, when we got word of the plan to close 20 out of the 22 schools in our neighborhood in Bronzeville, called the Mid-South Plan, and we fought and beat that plan, which was the predecessor to Renaissance 2010. We sought out unity with organizations around the city. and said that something has to change. And so we connected with Teachers for Social Justice. At that time, the Caucus of Rank and File Educators, Action Now, Pilsen Alliance, Blocks Together, and other groups around the city to say we have to start organizing for what we want to see in our schools. I'm a Chicago public school parent. My son goes to Murray Language Academy, but I can't send him to the neighborhood school 5 minutes from my house because the neighborhood school 5 minutes from my home has basically been sabotaged by the school district in which we pay taxes. But what they say is we have failing schools. They say your schools are bad, you have failing schools. We're here to tell you we don't have failing schools. Our schools have been failed. As parents and as taxpayers, we've been failed. We already know. W.E.B. Du Bois knew this in 1940, so it's inexcusable for Chicago public schools not to know it today. Standardized testing does not improve student achievement. Standardized testing gives you a sense of where a child lives, not what a child's capacity is. So why are we using these failed models of education? So in 2006, we started our first petition campaign for an elected representative school board. You know, it was an innocent effort. We tried. We didn't get it on the ballot. But then in 2012, as I began to meet some people around the city just as crazy as I am, from groups like Parents for Teachers and Raise Your Hand and Northside Action for Justice, we launched a precinct-based referendum campaign. And 87% of people in the city of Chicago said they wanted an elected representative school board. We hit over 330 precincts throughout this city. People, there was no indecision. It was clear as day. And then in 2015, we did a ward-based referendum campaign in 37 wards throughout the city of Chicago, and unanimously, 90% of Chicagoans said we want an elected representative school board. So my question for you is, what's the problem?
All right.
Why does Chicago fear an elected representative school board? So I want to share some things from you from just our interests, the neighborhoods we come from. My father's from Greenwood, Mississippi, God rest his soul. My mother's from Fort Smith, Arkansas. My father's family evacuated Mississippi. We did not migrate. We fled Mississippi and came to the south side of Chicago for some sense of refuge. My father, who had a 9th grade education, became a steel worker and wanted me to get a good education so I would not come home with burns on my arm like he did. And I was able to receive that. I went to an excellent neighborhood school in the hood. I went to Kenwood Academy High School on to and through college. So the question is, if I had that in 1980, why doesn't my son have that today?
All right.
Why doesn't my son have access to that today? It is not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault or my fault. We do not have failing schools. We've been failed. And so the reality is, this city has purged itself of African Americans at numbers reminiscent of the Great Migration in the 1940s and 50s. We have lost over 200,000 African American residents, and it coincides with school privatization. When we close schools, families flee. When housing disappears, families flee. That is manufactured misery, and this appointed school board is an agent for that type of insidious practice. So we are saying what you are seeing here in a hyper-segregated city is a different type of unity. You are looking at a unity that is rooted in self-determination. Parents have the right to say what type of education they want for their children, and if we pay these clowns taxes, then these clowns need to come correct or get ejected, one or the other. So we are building a different type of unity throughout this city. We are not fooled by the illusion of school choice. We choose democracy, not what we're dealing with right now. And the last thing I'll say is that this practice, the only city in the United States that has an appointed school board where the population of the students are not overwhelmingly black and brown, is Mount Clair, New Jersey. Every other city, New Orleans, Detroit, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chicago, Boston, New York, our school districts comprise of families of color. So this is a voting rights issue, but it is also a racial justice issue. And so we are very committed to working together in this new Rainbow Coalition to make sure that we achieve equity in the city of Chicago. Thank you very much.
Well said. We are lucky enough to have one more speaker. She's actually represents a school that is under siege right now. If you're reading the news, if you're paying attention, you're attending any of the board meetings or any of the actions that are happening. NTA is under siege. So I want to bring her up here. She's going to share a little bit about what she's going through and what her school is fighting for. Anika Matthews-Feldman.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Anika Matthews-Feldman. I have a first grader at National Teachers Academy. And last year we learned that the school board were putting in motion a plan to close NTA, a level 1 school. And regardless of what level you are, now we're level 1+, and they are still moving forward.
Where do you go from 1+?
Apparently you go to closing, according to the mayor's office. So our school, to your point, being under siege, our children, our black children in this city is 80% low-income black, doing well. In September, we showed the Board of Education that we were aware through emails that it was a mayor's directive that he sent to the school board to close NTA to satisfy political promise to a small, elite, wealthy group. We showed them proof. We knew that they already knew that they were involved because we also had information that back in 2016, well before they let NTA know their plans, that they were in private conversation about how to close NTA, National Teachers Academy. We need an elected school board. If you are courting from the mayor's office, courting board members that you appointed from the mayor's office who will not go against his directive. They will not go against his directive and say, this must happen. We have a problem. That means any school, if you are on the chopping block, they will not look at any evidence of why you should be closed. You shouldn't be closed. They will not look at why these kids, how these kids will be marginalized by removing them from where they are succeeding. They have ignored all evidence to show that moving and takeovering this school and moving these kids out of this school is actually going to reduce their success and push them on a train for failure and low confidence that educators care about them. When we showed proof, and I shouldn't say proof, I should say that we revealed to them that we know that you are in on this with the mayor's office. This was not an educational decision based on the needs of our children. They didn't bat an eye. So we need an elected school board. This would not be happening. National Teachers Academy would not be under siege if we had an elected school board. There would be true concern for our children's education and not fearing the mayor's decisions of kicking them off the board. We have a problem when we have people in charge of decisions for our children who are not elected. They have one allegiance, and it's to the mayor's office. They need to have their eyes on the prize, which is our children. All right. And I leave you with this. There is real fear that we can change this to an elective school board because it would spread equality. We have to fight for that equality because the way that this city is going now, we have all the schools are being failed unless you are one of the 10 elite. How many schools are in Chicago? And they pay attention to about 10 that get money, that get extensions to their school, that get annexes.
Independence.
They give these principals who they desire, who the mayor's office desire. They give them freedom to control the school. What happens to all the other schools? Where is the money? Again, we need an elected school board, and we need it now.
Yeah.